Part 14. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 131. It's really unbearable to stay in Juyan sect. After returning to the attic, Zhang Chen had a headache. Why is it so difficult for him to be a villain? Not to mention the plot collapse, the brothers and sisters and even the master went crazy, and now even the protagonist Lin Feng, after taking the 7 nether pill, no one knows what he has become. What's more exaggerated is, there is really no normal person in Juyan sect. It has become extremely difficult for him to get a system reward. Of course, if Zhang Chen insists on doing bad things, it will still work. But the problem is, as a villain, when doing evil things, the other party is not only not angry, but also looks at him with a smile. Can this feel good? The fun of villains is that they like to see those who obviously don't like themselves, but can't do anything to themselves. Instead of hitting someone on the left cheek, they smile and stretch out the right cheek. This kind of villain is boring. Zhang Chen sighed. He thought of Xuanhuan again, frowning slightly. He knew Xuanhuan was crazy, but he didn't expect her madness to be so serious. Not only did she want to poison Lin Feng, she also denied Lin Feng's identity as a true disciple and promoted Zhang Hu to the 6th true disciple of Zhe Feng. What was she trying to do? The point was that he had no way to stop it. If Zhang Lianyu and others went crazy, he could still tie them up. But Xuanhuan, even if he had the strength to tie them up, he couldn't bear to do it. Fortunately, Lin Feng was the son of destiny, with a golden pillar of luck of 100 feet, so it shouldn't be so easy to be poisoned to death. Hey, Zhang Chen sighed again. What's wrong? A pleasant voice sounded beside him. Zhang Chen was startled and turned his head quickly. What caught his eyes was Xuanhuan's lightly blinking phoenix eyes and skin as white as cream. Master, can we not learn from our ancestors and scare people with mysterious appearances and disappearances? Zhang Chen said helplessly. I'm not elusive, Xuanhuan shook her head and said, I've been hiding under the bed, you just didn't find me. Oh, so, what? Zhang Chen was dumbfounded. Hidden under the bed? What's this? A peeping Tom. Seeing Zhang Chen looking at her with a strange look, Xuanhuan quickly clarified, I have to protect you. Kill the enemy by surprise. By the way, I just beat up Jinro, and I also punished Zhou Feng to confinement. Zhang Chen had a face full of question marks. So Xuanhuan not only hid under the bed, but also followed him all the way just now. This is a stalker. And who is Zhou Feng? That's the apprentice of the 6th elder, the one you call Fat Junior Sister, Xuanhuan explained. Zhang Chen was speechless. He mourned for the poor Fat Junior Sister for a second. Thinking of the situation when the Fat Junior Sister gave him a belly band, he explained seriously, Master, I have no interest in belly bands. Don't listen to rumors. Really? Xuanhuan asked back. Of course. Then the 2 belly bands in your arms should be thrown away, right? Zhang Chen was embarrassed again. Heaven and earth are his conscience, he doesn't have any special hobbies. The reason why he carries the belly bands of his junior sisters with him is just to brush the system rewards. After all, the villain Halo will create some coincidences from time to time, causing the belly band to fall from his arms and be seen by others. Zhang Chen felt it necessary to explain. He didn't care if he was misunderstood as a pervert by others, but he couldn't let Xuanhuan misunderstand him. Master, don't believe the rumors. Zhang Chen said with a serious expression. You don't have to say it, I understand. Xuanhuan raised her hand to interrupt. Really understand? Of course, I am your master. That's good. That's good. In addition to belly bands, you also like stockings, right? Zhang Chen was speechless. How did this misunderstanding become deeper and deeper? The point is that it can't be explained. Because there is indeed a black silk in his arms. This is for you. A slender red jade box appeared out of thin air in his hand, and Xuanhuan handed it over. Master, may I ask a question? Is this your silkworm ice white silk? Zhang Chen's mouth twitched. How did you know? Xuanhuan was surprised. Although the red jade box can prevent prying, looking at its appearance, plus your face is so red, how can I not know? Zhang Chen complained in his heart. This silkworm ice white silk was originally a system reward, and was confiscated by Xuanhuan after being discovered. Unexpectedly, it finally returned to his hands. Master, I can't keep this thing. Forcing himself to leave his sight, Zhang Chen sternly refused. Although he was moved, he really couldn't accept it. Because once he accepted it, in Xuanhuan's heart, his name as a pervert would be confirmed. It concerns his own reputation, so he must be cautious. Hearing this, Xuanhuan's face froze. She raised her slender hand, tears in her eyes, and covered her mouth and said, "Disciple, do you dislike your master?" Zhang Chen was even more speechless. If Qingning was pitiful, he could at most comfort her. If Zhang Lianyu was pitiful, he could just ignore it. If Lin Mubai was pitiful, he would feel sick and beat people. But if Xuanhuan was pitiful, then he could only be a pervert. Helpless. Zhang Chen had to open the red jade box, take out the silk of silkworm ice, and put it in his arms as if it were a treasure. Seeing that Xuanhuan still had tears in her eyes, he thought about it, took out the white silk again, smelled it, and put it back in. Now Xuanhuan was satisfied and suddenly smiled like a flower. Master, I feel that it won't be long before we are called perverted masters and disciples, Zhang Chen said. How is that possible? Xuanhuan denied. Zhang Chen, you are not perverted, but you are releasing yourself and being unrestrained. I like you very much. Master, perverted master, and disciple, refers to you and me, Zhang Chen added. What do you mean? Xuanhuan frowned. When she wanted to say something else, she suddenly looked outside the pavilion and then disappeared out of thin air. The next second, she poked her head out from under the bed and said, Zhang Chen, my master is neither crazy nor perverted. You can't listen to others spreading rumors. After saying that, she shrank back again. Master, your red sleeves are exposed, Zhang Chen reminded while the corners of his mouth kept twitching. Oh. After a slight response, the exposed red sleeve was indeed taken back. This made Zhang Chen slap his forehead hard and start to doubt his life. Leaning slightly, there was a knocking sound on the door. After getting Zhang Chen's consent, the two brothers Lu Wen and Lu Wu entered together. Elder brother, that Lin Feng ran away. Lin Feng accepted a random mission and left the sect an hour ago. He was extremely fast, as if he was running for his life. The two said at the same time. Ran. Lin Feng? Zhang Chen was shocked. He guessed that Lin Feng would not be fooled by the Kaiming pill, but he did not expect that he would recover so quickly. Even less expected. This son of destiny ran away so simply. Isn't this too scary to die? Wasn't it just that he was buried alive by Qingning, stabbed by Zhang Lianyu, chopped by Lin Mubai, beaten by him, and poisoned by Xuanhuan? Well, it seems really miserable that he would have run away. Humph, you cowardly fellow, Xuanhuan suddenly appeared and sneered. The two brothers Lu Wen and Lu Wu were speechless. It was not difficult for the two of them to accept Xuanhuan's appearance. I just can't figure it out. Why? Why did Xuanhuan get out from under the bed? 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 132. Lin Feng just ran away, there is no point in chasing him now. It was to deal with this situation that he insisted on letting Lin Feng become a disciple of Juyan sect. Zhang Chen decided to let the Son of Destiny run away for a while, and then he would catch him after he settled down somewhere. This is called planning for a rainy day. Next, Zhang Chen is ready to retreat. Although he is now very powerful in combat, after all, his cultivation level is only in the middle stage of human yuan. And for this retreat, he has decided that if he doesn't break through, he will never come out. After learning that Zhang Chen was in seclusion, Zhang Lingyu and Xingning also chose to retreat. After making sure that no one would want to harm his eldest disciple in the short term, Xuanhuan began to study alchemy and rarely went out. The entire Juyan sect became quiet again. Only Zhang Hu kept going out, searching for poisons used to make elixirs for Xuanhuan. And every time he turned back, he was poisoned. The sun and the moon fly like a shuttle, and time flies like an arrow. In the blink of an eye, it was a few months later. Zhang Chen opened his eyes and clicked his tongue. His goal failed. After several months of seclusion, my cultivation has not improved at all. In the 9th reincarnation, although he was suppressed by this god, before he was expelled from the sect, his cultivation was as high as the Tianyuan realm. But at this moment, it was only the early stage of human yuan, and he was already feeling suppressed. No doubt. Probably aware of the collapse of the plot and the weakness of Lin Feng, the destined son, God has stepped up its suppression of him and is trying every possible way to send him, the stepping stone, to Lin Feng's feet. System, please give me some strength. God is looking down on you, Zhang Chen whispered helplessly. Of course, he was answered by systematic silence. Zhang Chen is also used to this. After all, the system has not spoken to him since he obtained it. He stood up and left the attic. He stood in the open space outside the attic and stretched. There is a towering old tree in front of the attic, and there are occasional spiritual birds resting in it. It's the same today, with spiritual birds playing, flying through the ancient woods, and chirping incessantly. After months of seclusion and nothing came of it, Zhang Chen was already irritated, so he picked up a piece of gravel and threw it at one of the spiritual birds with colorful feathers that was looking for food on a branch. Chirp! Although it missed, it frightened the spirit bird and let out a rapid cry. Haha, Zhang Chen felt happy. People in the Juyan sect are all lunatics, and bullying the spirit bird is considered a kind of fun. But after the laughter died down, he felt again an unprecedented emptiness. He is a great villain, but he has reduced himself to a bully. Why? Zhang Chen shook his head and sighed, preparing to go find Lin Feng as soon as possible. Otherwise, if he continues like this, his villain character may also collapse. And just when he turned around, the behavior conforms to the villain setting, reward, epiphany critical hit. Is this okay? Zhang Chen was stunned. Is the bully bird also considered a villain? At this moment, he wanted to ask the system if there was any misunderstanding about his personality. After a brief moment of shock, Zhang Chen quickly realized. This should be an unruly system. The system must have realized that it was being underestimated by God, so it triggered the reward so easily this time. As soon as the thought came to an end, Zhang Chen stayed where he was and fell into an epiphany. The next second, Xuanhuan held an alchemy cauldron and fell from the sky. Although she was refining elixirs, she still had a trace of consciousness to protect Zhang Chen at all times. At this time, Zhang Chen fell into an epiphany and lost his ability to perceive the outside world. Naturally, she had to come as soon as possible. With nothing to do, she placed the alchemy cauldron on the ground, and while doing two things, she shouted towards the ancient forest ahead, "Zhang Hu, where is the century-old withered vine? I'm coming." Zhang Hu's voice really sounded. He quickly rushed out of the ancient forest, covering his head with his left hand and grabbing a black and grey dead vine with his right hand. "Take the withered vine and put it into the alchemy cauldron." Xuanhuan flicked her thin fingers, and a phoenix fire came out from her fingertips, igniting the pill. Soon, the phoenix fire went out, and several black and gray pills flew out from it and landed in her palm. Peak Master's alchemy talent is beyond my reach, Xuanhu said with admiration. This withered bone pill is a 6th grade elixir, but you have mastered it in just a few months. Judging from its quality, it is still superior. Peak Master, you have become a 6th grade alchemist. What a fuss, Xuanhuan said expressionlessly as she put away the elixir. Phoenix fire is an innate fire, and the best quality is as high as the 9th level. Using phoenix fire as alchemy fire to refine elixirs, and combining it with the alchemy secrets that Xuanhuan read in the alchemy pagoda when she was 9 generations back, her attainments in alchemy will naturally increase by leaps and bounds. She flicked her red sleeves, and the alchemy cauldron disappeared out of thin air. After taking a look at Xuanhu, she wondered, "What's wrong with your head?" Xuanhu became very angry when he mentioned this matter. 100-year-old dead vines are often used by spiritual birds to build nests. He just managed to climb onto an ancient tree. But just as he got the withered vine, he was hit on the head by a sudden flying piece of gravel. Blood flowed instantly. If he hadn't used his vitality to stabilize his body in a hurry, he might have fallen from the ancient tree. After informing Xuanhuan of this, Xuanhu said angrily, "That person is so unethical. He actually threw rocks and even used his cultivation. Peak Master, you have to make the decision for me on this matter." Glancing at Zhang Chen, Xuanhuan instantly found the culprit. After all, she has been using her spiritual consciousness to protect Zhang Chen. Naturally, he knows Zhang Chen's every move very well. Xuanhu didn't think about Zhang Chen. That's because this ancient forest is vast and dense, and there are often male and female disciples of Zhufeng, who come together to chat with each other. Of course, Xuanhuan would not tell Xuanhu about this. In her opinion, Xuanhu deserved to be hit by Zhang Chen. Who told Xuanhu not to climb other trees but to climb the tree where Zhang Chen threw stones? Furthermore, if Xuanhu had a smaller head, wouldn't he be able to avoid being hit? If we really need to dig deeper into this matter, it is also the problem of Xuanhu's parents. Yes, it is like that. Xuanhuan kept nodding, feeling that her idea was reasonable. Seeing that Xuanhu was still standing there with an aggrieved look on his face, she threw out another jade slip and said, "This is a top-grade body technique. You should learn it as soon as possible. High-quality body skills." After catching the jade slip, Xuanhu was shocked. Such a level of movement skills, even for true disciples, requires a lot of meritorious service. It is true that he has been poisoned many times recently and searched for poisons everywhere for Xuanhuan. It is indeed about to rise. "Peak Master, if you treat me like this, I will do my best even more. I will share your worries." Xuanhu's eyes were filled with tears and he was extremely moved. "Very good." Xuanhuan nodded with satisfaction, and the newly refined withered bone pill appeared in her hand again. Putting the pill into Xuanhu's hands, she said without any doubt, "The chief disciple of the great elder of Danggu Pagoda is Xiaoshan. Don't get me wrong, although this person has the same surname as me, I have nothing to do with him. You go to the pill Gyuda, find a way to poison this man to death." Ah! Xuanhu was stunned. The first true story of how to get rid of the poison pill ancient pagoda? And the other party is also an alchemist? Is this task too difficult? He doesn't even know this person. At this moment he finally understood. No wonder Xuanhuan has given him a lot of good things recently, and the same is true for the high-grade body skills this time. All the items are not rewards, but to increase his success rate of poisoning. In short, he has become a poisoner. "Peak Master, can I not go?" Xuanhu cried sadly. "Okay." Xuanhuan nodded happily, "then take this pill and test the poison yourself." As soon as these words came out, Xuanhu turned pale with fright. "Peak Master, "I'll tell you the truth, I have a blood feud with that Xuanhuan," he said with a serious expression. At the same time, a wave of air burst out from Zhang Chen's body, blowing Zhang Hu into chaos. Feeling the richness and majesty of this air wave, he exclaimed, "Earth Yuan realm." Once the senior brother had an epiphany, he returned directly to the Earth Yuan realm. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 133. After Zhang Chen woke up from his epiphany, Xuanhuan and Zhang Hu had already left. Glancing at the spirit birds that shuttled between the ancient trees again, he picked up a piece of gravel again and threw it at the spirit birds. This time, there was no system reward. The system was not rebellious again. After stabilizing his cultivation in the attic for a few days, he asked Xuanhuan to use the blood scroll to find Lin Feng's location. Buddha Temple. Xuanhuan finally concluded. Zhang Chen frowned immediately. In the original story, Lin Feng was ordered by Xuanhuan to go to the Buddha Temple to find Mu Kuei. Now the plot has collapsed like this, but I didn't expect Lin Feng to still go to the Buddha Temple. And Zhang Chen really didn't want to go to the Buddha Temple. He really didn't want to play with Mu Kuei, because this guy was really special, and the best way was to stay away from him. But Lin Feng couldn't just leave it alone. After all, the Buddha Temple was indeed the opportunity for the Son of Destiny. And it was a great opportunity. Ancient books recorded. The Buddha Temple was established only a few hundred years ago, and hundreds of years ago, it was the territory of the Demon Suppression Palace. The ancestor of the Demon Suppression Palace was the Six Hells Demon Suppression Body. In order to suppress a demon from the upper domain, the ancestor of the Demon Suppression Palace sacrificed his life and turned into the Six Hells after his death, and barely managed to kill the demon. After the death of the ancestor of the Demon Suppression Palace, the Demon Suppression Palace gradually declined, and was finally replaced by the Buddha Temple. Bald donkeys also love face. After the establishment of the Buddha Temple, not only did they try every means to erase the existence of the Demon Suppression Palace, but they also named the six hells that still existed as joy, anger, worry, fear, love, hatred, and desire. They are used to punish and convert evil people or demons. In addition, the Buddha Temple also publicized it. These six hells are the result of the Buddha Temple's ancestors sitting in meditation and the Buddhist relics. The ordinary sects and monks in the central domain believed this to be true, and only a few first-class sects understood the truth. In the original work, after Lin Feng arrived at the Buddha Temple, he was unwilling to be forced to chant sutras and recite Buddha's name, so he made a big fuss in the Buddha Temple and was eventually imprisoned in the Desire Prison, the lowest level of the 6 prisons. As the Son of Destiny, it is impossible for him to be imprisoned innocently. With the help of the old man Tianji, Lin Feng finally escaped successfully and broke through the 6 prisons. The group of bald donkeys in the Buddha Temple, who cherished their own possessions and only practiced Buddhism, used the 6 prisons as prisons and never investigated them carefully. They didn't know at all. The 6 prisons were not prisons, but the inheritance left by the ancestors of the Demon Palace after their death. Lin Feng broke through the 6 prisons, causing them to break into pieces, but he got 6 drops of blood from the ancestors of the Demon Palace. After fusing the blood, Lin Feng's physique changed and became the 6 prisons demon body. From then on, he practiced both Taoism and body, and soared into the sky. This incident almost caused a war between the 2 righteous sects, Zhuyan sect and Buddha Temple. Although the final battle was avoided, Zhuyan sect still paid a great price to save Lin Feng. If it was Lin Feng's ordinary opportunity, Zhang Chen would not bother to destroy it. After all, he still needs to rely on Lin Feng's hand to usher in his own end and then ascend. But the 6 prisons demon body is different. This is an ancient physique. Combined with Lin Feng's ancient skills, it can make a qualitative leap. At that time, if the system's rewards are not strong, then he, the villain, may have to repeat the plot of being slapped in the face in the previous 9 lives. Zhang Chen will never allow such a thing. He can die at the hands of Lin Feng, but he will not let himself be trampled on by Lin Feng, the protagonist, like a stepping stone. The Buddha temple is very large. Can the specific location of Lin Feng be found through the blood slip? Zhang Chen asks Xuanhuan. No, the blood slip only shows the approximate location. Xuanhuan's face was also a little solemn. This answer made Zhang Chen understand immediately. The old man Tianji woke up. Although it is unknown how Lin Feng woke him up, he did wake up. Because only the old man Tianji could blur the blood charter's detection of Lin Feng. Now, Lin Feng has the prerequisite to obtain the opportunity. If he leaves it alone, such a great opportunity will be handed over to Lin Feng by the Buddha temple. Master, I want to go to the Buddha temple, Zhang Chen finally decided. Okay. Xuanhuan simply nodded. Master, you. Zhang Chen wanted Xuanhuan not to follow. After all, if Lin Feng has entered the 6 prisons during this trip to the Buddha temple, he must make a big fuss in the Buddha temple so that he can also enter the 6 prisons. But with Xuanhuan's current state, he will never let the group of bald donkeys in the Buddha temple catch him. But after thinking about it, he gave up again. Because even if he really stopped it and Xuanhuan reluctantly agreed, if Xuanhuan was determined to follow him, he couldn't send a letter. The same thing. I can't beat them, I can't tie them up, I can't bear to let them go, I can only communicate in detail when the time comes. But Zhang Chen will not be polite to the other crazy people. This matter is of great importance, he will never let those crazy people ruin things. Soon, Zhang Chen found Zhang Lianyu first. Lianyu, let's discuss something. Zhang Chen went straight to the point. At this time, Zhang Lianyu was practicing sword, and she immediately straightened her expression after hearing this. I will leave the sect tomorrow, and it will take at least several months to come back, Zhang Chen said again. I will go too, Zhang Lianyu replied in seconds. Hey, why don't I want you to go? Zhang Chen shook his head and sighed, but you are the only person I trust, I need you to become stronger. Only in this way can you become my left and right arm. The most trusted person? Left and right arm? Zhang Lianyu was immediately refreshed when she heard these 2 sentences. So you need to continue to retreat. You are only in the middle of Daiyuan now, everything is late Daiyuan. Zhang Chen stared, and quickly changed his tone, coughing to cover up his embarrassment. Ahem, this strength is not enough. The task given to you by the senior brother is to break through to Tianyuan before I come back. Tianyuan realm, Zhang Lianyu frowned slightly. Even if she has good talent and has 9 life recollection memories, it is extremely difficult to break through to Tianyuan in a few months. Lianyu, think about the last time I was arrested and taken to the head of the sect to be questioned. How did you do? Zhang Chen said in a gentle and persuasive way. These words made Zhang Lianyu bite her red lips tightly, and her beautiful eyes dimmed. That time, she went to save him. But before she could self-destruct the Emperor's source, she was knocked unconscious by Gu Changqing. It is indeed as Zhang Chen said, her strength is far from enough. She needs to become stronger. Especially in the Peak Master's Pavilion, Xuanhuan woke up and easily drove her away, which made her always feel uneasy. Only when you have high cultivation can you be amazing. Only then can you do whatever you want, Zhang Lianyu whispered. Zhang Chen didn't understand, but still praised, Lianyu, your words are very insightful. I like you very much. I have been looking forward to the day when you can do whatever you want. Really, Zhang Lianyu was delighted. Of course. Okay. I will go to retreat immediately. Come on, 5th junior sister. Zhang Chen smiled with satisfaction as he watched Zhang Lianyu trot away. Crazy people, you still have to trick them. They are not stable even if they are tied up. After dealing with one, Zhang Chen went to find Qingning again. Qingning was playing with Xiao Bai in front of Yongxiao Palace at this time. The woman and the tiger were very happy, and occasionally they would exchange their experiences of burying people alive. After seeing Zhang Chen, the woman and the tiger ran over quickly. Qingning took Zhang Chen's arm and acted coquettishly. Xiao Bai circled around Zhang Chen and asked, "Big brother, what is the next step for us to go against the heavens?" Not wanting to pay attention to Xiao Bai, Zhang Chen rubbed Qingning's head and said, "Qingning, let's discuss something." The same statement, almost the same conversation. Zhang Chen tricked Qingning into retreat again. "There is another lunatic left, Lin Mubai, but don't worry about him." Lin Mubai was thrown into the sect prison by the Juyan patriarch himself, and no specific sentence was said, so no one dared to let him go. If the patriarch doesn't wake up and doesn't think about this, then Lin Mubai will probably spend the rest of his life in prison. Haha, thinking of this, Zhang Chen laughed out loud. "Big brother, your smile is really sinister." "But I like it," Xiao Bai took the opportunity to flatter him. "Why are you still here?" Zhang Chen was stunned. "I am a demon beast, and retreating before transforming is useless. Since Qingning is retreating again, I will follow you." 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 134. The next day, Zhang Chen took the brothers Lu Wen and Lu Wu, as well as a big white tiger, and left Juyan sect and headed for Buddha temple. Thousands of people saw him off when he left the sect. From the 12 supreme elders to the errant disciples of Juyan sect, they kept telling him to take care of himself and be careful of the group of bald donkeys in Buddha temple, because those bald donkeys are very bad. Zhang Chen's scalp tingled after hearing these words, and he hurriedly left. A red-clothed figure appeared and disappeared behind him not far away. Looking at Zhang Chen's departing back, the 12 supreme elders sighed. The ancestor is indeed very wise. Recently, since they decided to influence Zhang Chen's evil deeds have been greatly reduced. Not only that. Before leaving Juyan sect, Zhang Chen even made the 2 crazy people Zhang Lianyu and Qingning stay in seclusion. Xiao Hong'ai also followed. In this way, Juyan sect is at peace. Although everyone has seen the horror of the demon species, they still have some doubts about the words of Juyan patriarch in their hearts. After all, this matter is incredible. Anyone with a normal mind will not completely believe it. But the facts are in front of them, and they have to believe it. I think Zhang Chen has become more pleasing to the eye recently, and even thinks he is a little handsome. Jinro, the leader of the Beast Control Peak, said with emotion. Me too. Zhang Lingfeng, the leader of Jianfeng Peak, continued, at the beginning, I forcibly suppressed my inner disgust and gritted my teeth to influence Zhang Chen. But recently, although I still hate him, I also think he is a little pleasing to the eye. Because the ancestors' method is effective, we have a certain resistance to the influence of the demon species. Niu Wu, the leader of the Kifeng Peak, said. This statement was unanimously agreed by the 12 supreme elders. With gratitude in their hearts, everyone immediately bowed deeply in the direction of the Juyan patriarch, and said in unison, the patriarch is so bright, I can't wait. If Zhang Chen heard this conversation, he would be struck by lightning. In the 9 reincarnations, there are actually many people who look at him particularly well. But without exception, these people are all villains. This also means that everyone in the Juyan sect is about to be labeled as a villain by this god. The Buddha temple is in some trouble after the ceremony, the Supreme Elder Xiaoting was worried. Everyone nodded when they heard it, and their faces were solemn. What are the bald donkeys in the Buddha temple best at? Influence and transcendence. If Zhang Chen is influenced by the Buddha temple this time, What will happen to the demons in their hearts? If they are transcended, it will be even more incredible. Now everyone in the Juyan sect believes that the cause of the inner demon is too persistent and born because of Zhang Chen. Under this premise, if Zhang Chen, the evil, is punished, it will only have a counter effect and strengthen their obsession with justice. At that time, the devil may be deeply planted, or even completely erupt. And Juyan sect will directly become Juyan demon sect. This matter must be prevented. If the Buddha temple wants us to become demons, I will send those bald donkeys to see the Buddha first, a certain supreme elder said viciously. Yes, although they are both righteous, they are not from our sect, and their hearts must be different. Moreover, since the establishment of the Buddha temple, it has repeatedly detained disciples of Juyan sect and forced them to recite Buddhist scriptures. This move regards Juyan sect as nothing, another supreme elder agreed. After hearing these words, Xiaoting frowned slightly. Why does he feel that Juyan sect is a bit violent? Although he doesn't understand, he thinks it's natural. Because the current Juyan sect is fighting against the entire demon path with the power of the whole sect. If someone makes trouble, he will not let him go either. Pay close attention to the situation at the Buddha temple. Finally, Xiaoting ordered. The Buddha temple has a very large sphere of influence. It is located on the west side of the central region. There are countless temples in it, like trees standing in a forest, covering thousands of miles. In a subordinate temple of the Buddha temple, morning bells and evening drums, incense curling. This temple is a linear structure, and the buildings inside are arranged in a line. In addition to the main hall, there are only Buddhist houses connected to the walls. The people living in the Buddhist houses are all foreign monks who practice with hair and chant scriptures and chant Buddha every day. Dong. A little monk hit the Buddha bell, and the sound rolled and spread, resounding throughout the temple. In a short while, a group of monks of different shapes, both men and women, quickly left the Buddhist house, walked into the Buddhist hall with solemn faces, sat cross-legged on their own cushions, and picked up the wooden fish in front of them. In the Buddhist hall, the golden body of the Buddha was shining, and under it sat a monk who was also cross-legged, with a scar on his head and wearing a cassock. This person is the preaching monk of this temple. His real identity is one of the 1,000 elders of Buddha temple. There are many elders in Buddha temple, and their cultivation is uneven, but they are good at Buddhism. The monk burned incense, closed his eyes, and tapped the wooden fish in his hand. When Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva practiced deep prajnaparamita, he saw that the 5 aggregates were empty and overcame all sufferings. He chanted softly. Hearing this, all the monks followed suit and tapped the wooden fish in their hands, and the sound overlapped with that of the monk. Shariputra, color is not different from emptiness, emptiness is not different from color. Color is emptiness, emptiness is color, and so are perception, thought, action, and consciousness. In an instant, the incense was like clouds, with only the sound of wooden fish and chanting. And the golden light of the Buddha sitting on the high platform was even brighter, as if he wanted to save all living beings. Suddenly, ka! A crisp and harsh sound rang out. The monks who were still meditating and chanting Buddha's name a second ago were instantly awakened by the sound. They seemed to be used to it and looked helpless. The preaching monk suddenly opened his eyes, and then the corners of his mouth twitched wildly. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound. Behind the monks who were sitting cross-legged, there was a man who was as burly as an iron tower, with a pair of thick eyebrows that were almost connected. Even though he was sitting cross-legged, he was still much taller than the other monks. The man looked at the wooden fish that he had broken, scratched his head awkwardly, and said, "Sorry, I didn't control the strength well." Everyone was in a daze. Didn't control the strength well? How many times has this happened? The rules of the Buddha temple. The monks who came here must chant Buddhist scriptures with the other 9 people. Buddhism emphasizes mutual assistance and salvation, So only after all 10 people are recognized by the preaching monks can they leave the temple and move within the sphere of influence of the Buddha temple. In the past, even if the monks were stupid, they could get approval to leave within a month. But they stayed here for 4 months. Do you know how they spent these 4 months? They forgot to eat and sleep every day, just thinking about chanting scriptures and Buddha quickly, and then leaving this ghost place. But every time, the iron tower-like man would break the GNZ and smash the wooden fish. At the beginning, the preaching monk thought that the man was just too strong, so he replaced him with an extremely sturdy spiritual wooden fish. But there was no change. Helplessly, the preaching monk had to constantly replace the GNZ and wooden fish with higher grade and more sturdy ones. The result was the same. And the wooden fish that the man just broke was a top-grade spiritual weapon. The Buddhist magic weapon that the preaching monk kept in the bottom of the box. Mukwe, you have no fate with Buddha, leave the Buddha temple quickly. The preaching monk looked painful and waved his hand like chasing away flies. The monks did not feel happy when they heard this. Because this was the 50th time the preaching monk had said this in 4 months. And every time, Mukwe's answer was, "That won't work." Mukwe shook his head and refused. Big brother said, "I was stupid, I want to complete the sect mission and prove him wrong." This fell. After a short silence, all the monks slapped their foreheads in unison and began to doubt their lives. The preaching monk was even more desperate and wanted to crash his head into the golden body of the Buddha behind him and then tell the Buddha, "Even the Buddha can't save this person. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil." Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 135. At night. In the Buddhist hall, the candle light flickered, and the preacher sat cross-legged on a futon, facing the golden body of the Buddha, with his hands clasped together, and a string of rosary beads hanging between his big thumb and index finger. He recited scriptures softly, confessing. According to the rules of the Buddha temple, Buddhism is open to all monks who have the heart to worship Buddha. According to the rules of the Buddha temple, when preaching to other monks, they should not be disgusted by their nature, hate them by their evil nature, or expel them because of their stupidity. The Buddha saves all things and saves all sentient beings. All living beings have spirits, and they are all predestined to the Buddha. He wanted to expel Mukwe, but he felt disgusted because of his dull qualifications and violated the precepts. And this is his 50th confession. The preaching monk's name is Xuanhuan. His own cultivation is not in the human realm, but because of his deep understanding of Buddhism, he has become one of the thousands of preaching elders in the Buddha temple. He once transformed to kill evil people, and also transformed into an evil demon. But that Mukwe, I really can't help him. Breaking the wooden fish is just one of them. Xuanhuan once asked Mukwe to abandon the wooden fish and recite scriptures instead. A second ago, Mukwe could write down the contents of the sutra, but when he was reciting the sutra, he hesitated for a while, unable to utter a few words, and then said that he had forgotten it. Xuanhuan could tell that Mukwe was a body-refining monk. He asked him to chop wood and meditate to refine his state of mind. But this thing is simply exaggerated. Chopping wood can split the ground. Even more so when meditating. The other monks were so shocked that they thought it was a divine punishment. Xuanhuan also endured these. The issue is, if the Buddha temple forces outside monks to chant sutras and recite Buddha's name, it will meet the daily needs of these monks. Mukwe is already a Xuanhuan monk, but like a monk in the lower 4 realms, he often feels hungry in his belly. If there are no pills, monster meat, etc. to replenish chi and blood, he needs to eat spiritual rice. If you want to eat spiritual rice, just eat it. The Buddhist temple family has a great cause, so they won't be reluctant to eat spiritual rice. But that Mukwe is so edible. One person is worth 100 people, and in 4 months he has eaten up several years of spiritual rice reserves in this temple. If this continues, this temple will be eaten up by Mu Kuei. Every year, the Buddha temple has limited rations for its subordinate temples. In order to ensure the daily supplies for other monks, Huikong spent all his spiritual crystals and even sold his own golden bowl some time ago. Today, he no longer has the high-quality wooden fish at the bottom of the box, nor the golden bowl for preaching that he received from the Buddha temple when he became a preaching monk. Definitely the poorest elder in the Buddha temple since its establishment. None of them. Just be poor if you are poor, it is something external to you. Huikong still has this awareness. But, Buddha, when will this day end? Huikong was going crazy. Mu Kuei will not leave here. Those who fail to chant sutras and recite Buddha's name according to the rules of the Buddhist temple cannot be expelled if they do not want to. As an elder, he is well versed in Buddhist teachings, and he cannot lie about Mu Kuei's qualifications. It's a dead end with no way out. If Mu Kuei stays here, he is like a vampire, sooner or later he will be sucked dry. Originally Huikong thought that if he could sacrifice himself to save others, it would be considered a meritorious deed. But Buddha, that Mu Kuei is really insurmountable. He is just a bad guy, Huikong cried. After saying this, he suddenly woke up again, dripping with cold sweat. As an eminent monk, he actually used vulgar words to insult others. This is a violation of the precepts of anger. He had no choice but to start repenting again and reciting scriptures. A person who is angry does not know what is good or what is not good, does not recognize the blessings of sin, does not know the benefits and harms, does not remember himself, and will fall into the evil path. The sutra says that all sentient beings should have good roots and no doubt. Those who remain angry and confused are guilty of play. The sound of chanting causes the Buddha Dharma in Huikong's body to rotate. At the same time, the Buddha's golden body shone with golden light again, the Buddha's light enveloped the Buddhist hall, and the Buddha's voice rose and fell one after another. Half an hour later. After the sutra, the Buddha's light faded and Huikong opened his eyes again. The venom was gone from his eyes, he was neither angry nor angry, and there was a profound smile on his lips, like an eminent monk. Elder, Mu Kuei wants to see you. A young novice came inside to report. Hearing this, Huikong's face suddenly stiffened, and the eminent monk's appearance instantly collapsed. Soon, there was another person in the Buddhist hall. This man was holding a meter-high rice bucket and was chattering. While talking, he used his huge palm to grab a handful of spiritual rice from the rice bucket and stuffed it into his mouth. After the meal, the man did not forget to ask the young monk to prepare more than 10 cups of spiritual tea to quench his thirst. This feeling and scene caught my eye. Although Huikong was still sitting cross-legged on the futon with his eyes slightly closed, the corners of his mouth were twitching like an epilepsy. An angry person doesn't know what is good or what is not good, and he doesn't see sins and blessings. He started chanting sutras again. Sudden belch. Mu Kuei had enough tea and rice and burped. The sound of the hiccup is dull and loud, and can even bring up strong wind, which makes the sky become chaotic. Now, he could no longer recite the sutra. Why do you? Taking a deep breath, Huikong tried hard to suppress his angry thoughts and asked, why do you have to come here to eat? Come and ask the eminent monk to interpret the dream, Mu Kuei replied instantly. Huikong was speechless. The answer was wrong. He asked about the meal, and Mu Kuei said about dream interpretation. Can we continue talking today? What dream? Huikong asked again as he pressed his temples hard. Mu Kuei straightened his expression, and when he was about to speak, he frowned. After carefully recalling it for a long time, he scratched his head in embarrassment and said, I forgot. Huikong is going crazy. But I remember the other dream clearly, Mu Kuei added. Huikong did not respond and closed his eyes again. Someone told me in my dream that I was the reincarnation of the Emperor Wu. I wanted to break the sky with my strength and ascend to the sky, but was suppressed by the heaven, Mu Kuei said. What? Huikong opened his eyes suddenly. Cultivators rarely dream, and if they do, there must be a reason. It may be a warning, or something from the previous life, or the gradual emergence of inner demons, so it must be treated with caution. If what Mu Kuei said is true, there are only two possibilities. It is really the reincarnation of the Great Emperor, or he has an obsession with the Great Emperor and has inner demons. Every time you break through, are there any strange phenomena in the world? Huikong asked with a straight face. No. Mu Kuei shook his head. Have you ever had some memories that are not related to you? No. Huikong was silent and looked at Mu Kuei strangely. There are no strange phenomena caused by the complete Emperor source, and no memories, so it is impossible to be the reincarnation of the Great Emperor. That is the inner demon? But Mu Kuei is dull, honest, and stupid. Logically speaking, a cultivator with such a personality should have nothing to do with the inner demon. Put your head forward, I will use the Dharma to explore your sea of consciousness, Huikong said. Mu Kuei had no objection and immediately leaned forward. This made Huikong shake his head helplessly. The sea of consciousness is an important part of a cultivator. If it is slightly damaged, he will become a fool. He did not expect that Mu Kuei trusted him so much that he was completely defenseless. Well, today I will explore your inner demon. And save you. Huikong became serious and reminded, the Dharma is gentle and will not damage your sea of consciousness. But if the sea of consciousness is peeped at, it will cause the cultivator to feel strong pain. You need to be patient later. Okay, Mu Kuei still replied in seconds. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 136. Huikong nodded, put his right hand together and placed it on top of Mu Kuei's head. He murmured Buddhist sounds, and the Dharma in his body was running. Soon, his right hand emitted Buddha light, which was reflected in Mu Kuei's mind, and his own consciousness, along with the Buddha light, instantly invaded Mu Kuei's sea of consciousness. The sea of consciousness of ordinary cultivators is like a world, and all memories will appear one after another like a horse-drawn show. But Mu Kuei, except for the blood-red figure in the front with his back to Huikong, it was blank. Nothing. Huikong had never seen such a strange situation. He stepped forward cautiously, wanting to glimpse the true face of the blood-red figure. But just after taking a step, the blood-red figure suddenly turned back. Looking directly at that person, Huikong's eyes widened instantly, horrified and shocked. He saw a great emperor. A statue standing on the fragments of the throne, covered in blood, with madness and unwillingness in his eyes, disheveled hair and naked upper body, like a mad emperor. And the facial features of this emperor are exactly the same as Mu Kuei. Get lost, the bloody emperor suddenly spoke. A simple word instantly shook Huikong away from Mu Kuei's sea of consciousness and returned to reality. Ah! Huikong covered his head and screamed. The words and eyes of the emperor continued to appear in his mind. No matter what, he could not get rid of them. That look, like thousands of sharp knives, instantly pierced his soul, and those words, like the earth shaking, instantly shattered his sea of consciousness. After the scream stopped, Huikong's eyes were dull and he became a real fool. High monk, Mu Kuei blinked, leaned closer and asked, why is the high monk screaming? Crazy, lunatic. Pointing at Mu Kuei's nose, Huikong screamed again. After saying that, he turned and ran, crashed through 3 walls in succession, and fled madly. This made Mu Kuei look puzzled. It was said that if the sea of consciousness was peeped, it would feel painful. He didn't react, but Huikong was in great pain. It was said that he would save him again. Before he started saving, Huikong ran away. Hey, it seems that I have to change a temple to chant sutras and recite Buddha's name. Why is it so difficult to get a Dharma name? Mu Kuei sighed. Only monks who have passed the chanting of sutras and reciting Buddha's name can be given a lay Dharma name by the preaching monk, which is equivalent to recognition. To put it bluntly, this is a form of brainwashing. It is said that many disciples of other sects, after chanting sutras and receiving lay names, felt that they really had a connection with Buddha, so they directly defected from their sects and joined the Buddha temple. That is why the relationship between the Buddha temple and other sects of the righteous path is not as harmonious as it seems. It is just that they are all righteous sects, so they have not torn their faces apart. This time, Zhang Chen did not take the spirit boat to leave the sect and go to the Buddha temple, but walked. This time, he must not be too high profile. If he is too high profile, the group of bald donkeys in the Buddha temple will recognize him as the young master of the Zhang family. In this way, if Lin Feng has been imprisoned in the 6 prisons, no matter how much he makes a fuss, I am afraid that these bald donkeys will be afraid to act rashly. In order to successfully complete the goal, Zhang Chen did not even let the old man Chen Sheng follow him. Of course, based on his understanding of Chen Sheng, the latter would never really ignore him, and should be paying close attention to his situation somewhere 100 miles away. At this time, the group had been walking for dozens of days, and they were only a few 100 miles away from the Buddha temple. "Big brother, are we going to drive Mu Kuei crazy when we go to the Buddha temple this time?" the younger brother Lu Wen suddenly came up and asked. "Crazy?" Zhang Chen frowned. Lu Wen smiled, as if to say, "Stop pretending, I know it was you who did it." It's no wonder he did that. When Zhang Chen was in Juyan sect, Zhang Lianyu and Lin Mubai went crazy, and Qing Ning went crazy after a trip to the Hongduan mountains. After returning to Juyan sect, even the peak master Xiao Hongii has gone crazy. No matter how you look at it, it's all related to Zhang Chen. Other people in Juyan sect thought so before, but it was only because the Juyan patriarch fooled them that they blamed it on the non-existent demon species. Lu Wen and Lu Wu, the 2 younger brothers, had their memories of preaching erased by the Juyan patriarch, so they naturally still thought so. Of course, Zhang Chen himself had the same idea. Glancing at the red clothes that appeared and disappeared not far behind him, he was basically convinced that he was poisoned. "Mu Kuei can't go crazy." Zhang Chen shook his head after retracting his gaze. "Why?" Lu Wen was puzzled. Zhang Chen didn't reply, but continued to shake his head. "The answer is very simple. Because Mu Kuei was a madman. A madman who was the reincarnation of a madman martial emperor." Zhang Chen looked up at the sky and felt something in his heart. This is a big world. Although there are 10 small worlds under this big world, they are all under the same heavenly way. And in this big world, everyone aims to become an emperor, and the word ascension rarely appears. This is because, although there are records in ancient books that in ancient times, there were cultivators who broke through the sky and ascended. But after the ancient times retreated and order was established, no one ascended for tens of thousands of years. Over time, most cultivators lost the concept of ascension and only thought that the emperor was the end of cultivation. Only a few people know. It's not that the cultivators have lost the way to ascend, but that they have taken the wrong way. To become an emperor, you need to be sealed by the sky. This is what most cultivators think now. Little did they know. Emperor Tianfeng was actually a fake emperor. A fake emperor who was willing to become a vassal of the heavenly Dao. If you want to become a true emperor, you need to prove the truth with your own understanding. Only when you have achieved the truth can you break through the sky and ascend. The ancient cultivators were able to ascend because they went against the will of heaven. Today's cultivators take the will of heaven as their own will and are proud of the heavenly seal. How can they break through the sky and ascend to the sky? But Zhang Chen also knew that this could not be blamed on the cultivators of today. After all, the suppression of the sky above their heads was too strong. Didn't he fail in his 9 reincarnations against the sky? It is worth mentioning. In the 9 reincarnations, Lin Feng killed his daughter to prove the truth because he noticed this. It's ridiculous. Lin Feng, the son of destiny, finally chose the path of going against the sky. And this God is indeed a good father. It is impossible that the heavenly Dao did not foresee Lin Feng's final choice, but still took good care of this son. Such behavior, in Zhang Chen's view, just like the mountain-like fatherly love, he would rather his son break through himself and rebel against himself than send his son to a higher place. In addition to Zhang Chen and Lin Feng, those pseudo-emperors of the heaven also knew this. Most pseudo-emperors chose to obey, only the martial emperor before Mu Kui's reincarnation insisted on resisting. The emperor's throne condensed from the collapsed emperor source, sealed his own memory, and reincarnated to build again. In order not to be affected by this heavenly way, he even abandoned all other wisdom except the martial arts perception. Mu Kui was dull, that's why. Zhang Chen said Mu Kui was crazy, not crazy, but crazy. Because this is a real madman who, if he chooses to obey, can stand on the commanding heights and enjoy worship, but he has to go against the heaven, and wants to prove the way of martial arts to break the heaven and ascend to the sky. In the 9 reincarnations, Zhang Chen tried to awaken Mu Kui's memory in advance, and the two of them went against the heaven together. But the results were all failures without exception. Because the memory seal of the Emperor Wu was too strong, only he could break it. And every time Mu Kui's memory began to awaken, it was before his death. In the original story, after Mu Kui's memory began to awaken, he went to another world. This should be the foreshadowing buried by the original author. But the gunman who took over ended it hastily, so this foreshadowing was naturally not used. So, Zhang Chen didn't know what happened to Mu Kui in the end. The only thing he knew was, if Mu Kui was completely angry, he would break a trace of memory seal and become crazy. Although he would return to his original state soon, his combat effectiveness would definitely rise sharply during this period. In this life, even if Zhang Chen wanted to be a villain, he didn't want to play with Mu Kui. That time he ridiculed Mu Kui in public, it was because he was sure that this move would not make Mu Kui completely angry. Remember, stay away from Mu Kui. If you anger him, I may not be able to save you in time, Zhang Chen solemnly warned. Hearing this, the brothers Lu Wen and Lu Wu nodded quickly. The big white tiger following behind also nodded, but it was obviously not in high spirits and looked dejected. Zhang Chen, why don't you ride me? I run so fast, Xiaobai finally asked the question in his heart. Along the way, it suggested many times that Zhang Chen ride it. If so, it would definitely greatly reduce the time to reach the Buddha temple. But Zhang Chen rolled his eyes every time. This made Xiaobai feel that he might be disliked. Xiaobai, wait a little longer, patting Xiaobai's tiger head, Zhang Chen said seriously, this kind of thing, let's talk about it after you transform. Xiaobai didn't understand at all. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 137. A few days later, Zhang Chen and his group arrived at the Buddha temple. In front of them was a magnificent Buddhist temple with red walls and grey tiles, and the sun was shining brightly. This was one of the 48 reception halls of the Buddha temple, which was specially designed to receive monks. It was called reception, but in fact it was to classify the monks who came to the Buddha temple to facilitate chanting and management. If the monks came to join the Buddha temple, they would be taken to the main temple of the Buddha temple by the reception hall. If they were others, they would receive a Buddha amulet and be assigned to the temples under the Buddha temple to chant sutras and chant Buddha until they were qualified, and then they could move freely. The Buddha temple had a large sphere of influence, and the 48 reception halls could not completely cover the diamond suit. Therefore, there were often monks who intended to bypass the reception hall and go directly into the Buddha temple. Little did they know that there were two major formations in the Buddha temple. One was the defense formation of the main temple of the Buddha temple, which would not be opened unless a sect war occurred. The other was the great formation for salvation. With incense as the medium, the Buddha temple and the countless temples under it are closely connected, forming a great array of salvation that can cover the entire Buddha temple. If there is no Buddha amulet, foreign monks below the upper four realms will be saved by the Buddha Dharma in an instant. According to the group of bald donkeys in the Buddha temple, this is to confess their sins in front of the Buddha. Zhang Chen shook his head and felt that those monks who wanted to bypass the reception hall were all talents. Since the Buddha temple has set the rule that all monks entering its sphere of influence must recite scriptures and chant Buddha, how could it let people take advantage of it? Anyone with a little brain would not have such an idea. Even Xiaobai, the stupid tiger, should not be so stupid. Big brother, this Buddha temple is really stupid. We only need to bypass this reception hall. Can't we enter the Buddha temple directly and avoid reciting scriptures and chanting Buddha? Xiaobai's eyes lit up and felt that he was very smart. Zhang Chen was speechless. Taking a deep breath, he looked directly at Xiaobai and said seriously, Xiaobai, I must admit my mistakes frankly. I really underestimated you. Alas, I am not that good in reality. Compared with the senior brother, I am still a little inferior. Before he finished speaking, Xiaobai was kicked by Zhang Chen. Not wanting to talk nonsense with this stupid tiger, Zhang Chen led everyone into the Jiying Hall. In fact, even if he really bypassed the Jiying Hall, he would not be saved by relying on his own trump card. But Xiaobai and others had no choice but to see the Buddha. In addition, his goal this time was to find Lin Feng first. If Lin Feng had been in the 6 prisons, he would also have to go to the 6 prisons. And the monks who trespassed into the Buddha temple had only one way to be saved. Even if they escaped the salvation formation, they would face endless pursuit and were not qualified to go to the 6 prisons to be reformed. Even if it was the plot in the original book. Although Lin Feng was unwilling to chant sutras and recite the Buddha's name, he made a big fuss only after receiving the Buddha amulet from the reception hall. Zhang Chen frowned instantly when he entered the hall. As far as he knew, there was a constant stream of monks coming and going in the Buddha temple, and the reception hall should have always been crowded with people. But now, at a glance, except for a few young monks sweeping the floor, there were almost no other foreign monks. While thinking, a fat and big-eared monk with a shiny bald head and a monk's robe open, revealing a fat and big belly, came from a distance. After taking a look at Zhang Chen and others, the monk seemed to see at a glance that Zhang Chen was the leader, so he narrowed his eyes and asked, "May I ask, benefactor, what are you doing in the Buddha temple?" "Against the sky." Xiaobai answered first, with a loud voice, and a pair of tiger eyes full of brilliance. Hearing this, the monk was frightened. But soon, he came to Zhang Chen and whispered, "Donor, your pet is not very smart, right?" "The monk has a keen eye," Zhang Chen praised. You're welcome," the monk waved his hand and quickly modestly said, "I don't deserve the title of a monk. My name is Huixing. I am one of the 48 elders of the Buddha temple's reception hall. I have been studying Buddhism for only 100 years and I am deeply trusted by this temple. I still have some vision. Is this modesty? It's more like self-praise." Zhang Chen rolled his eyes immediately. Sure enough, even the bald donkeys who pay attention to the 4 elements are empty still like to flatter themselves. Especially the Buddha, who is all over his body. Maybe this is called, the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam is crooked? Zhang Chen thought to himself. "Master Huixing, I wonder why there are no foreign monks in this reception hall," he asked again. "Master?" Huixing frowned immediately when he heard this title. He just modestly changed his title from High Monk to Master? Need to know. All monks can be called masters, but there are very few who can be called high monks. Although he was unhappy, he couldn't say it directly, but his tone became indifferent. Recently, 2 foreign monks have been acting recklessly in the Buddha temple. One drove 3 preaching monks crazy, and the other was unwilling to recite scriptures and chant Buddha, making a fuss everywhere. The Buddhist disciples will arrest them personally soon. Zhang Chen understood instantly. The person who made a fuss everywhere must be Lin Feng. But he didn't know who the other person was. After all, whether it was in the original work or in the 9 reincarnations. Since Mu Kuei never had a dream that he forgot in a blink of an eye, he didn't ask the preaching monk to solve the doubts, and naturally he wouldn't drive several people crazy. What does Huixing say have to do with the decrease in the number of monks in the Jiying Hall? Zhang Chen asked again. As soon as this question came out, the smile on Huixing's face was suppressed again. Now, people just call him by his Dharma name, and even the respectful title of master is gone. Originally Huixing wanted to leave directly, but he saw that Zhang Chen and others had extraordinary origins, especially the stupid tiger, who was obviously a big demon but could speak human language, so he must have ancient blood. It is said that Buddha regards all beings as equal, but he has not yet become a Buddha, so naturally he cannot reach such a realm. After a brief pause, Huixing replied, "Those 2 people are from Juyan sect. And our temple received news that the eldest brother of Juyan sect Zhufeng, the only son of the Zhang family in Shangyu, Zhang Chen, is on his way to the Buddha temple. The Buddha of our temple said that Zhang Chen is an evil obstacle, and wherever he goes, he will be evil everywhere, so the temple will be closed for a short time to refuse him entry." After speaking, he looked at Zhang Chen again and asked, "May I ask the name of the donor?" Zhang Chen replied in seconds. Of course, the real name cannot be said, otherwise even if he can enter the Buddha temple, he will be driven away by those bald donkeys in every possible way, so he can't destroy Lin Feng's opportunity. Huixing didn't have a strong aversion to him, so he must be a dirty person and would not have any doubts. It was just as he expected. Huixing didn't doubt him and nodded, "Please go back, Mr. Zhang. I have said that the Buddha temple is temporarily closed. Except for fellow monks and monks who want to become disciples of the Buddha temple, no other strangers are allowed to enter. Amitabha, I have 3 Dharma names, one is funeral, the second is half burial, and the third is full burial." Zhang Chen put his hands together, and the Buddha Sutra in his body was running. He said in a voice like Buddha, 3 numbers combined into one, abbreviated as 3 burials. Huixing was instantly confused by this. Old monk? He glanced at the black hair on Zhang Chen's head and estimated Zhang Chen's age. He didn't look like an old monk. And there are 3 Dharma names. 3 numbers combined into one is abbreviated as 3 burials. Isn't this nonsense? But Huixing rubbed his eyes and scratched his ears. These words clearly sounded like nonsense, but why? Why did Zhang Chen, in front of him at this moment, look like the 6 Buddhist disciples in the Buddha temple, not only with a voice like the Buddha's voice, but also with the Buddha's light on his body? He looked like someone who was well versed in Buddhism, so awesome. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 138. Huixing didn't believe it, but he had to believe it. Words and appearance can deceive people, but only Buddhist skills can't deceive people. And he could clearly feel that the Buddhist Heart Sutra that Zhang Chen was learning was definitely many levels higher than him. Could this person be a lay disciple of the upper domain Buddhist sect? Huixing guessed secretly. The more he thought about it, the more possible it seemed. Only this answer could explain everything. The only Buddhist power in the central domain was the Buddha temple. But there was a small domain in the upper domain, called the Buddha domain, where it was said that Buddhas were everywhere, and the Buddha's light was shining everywhere, and everyone was awesome. "May I ask where you are from, and what do you want to do in the Buddha temple?" Huixing asked again. "I came from the east, and I came to the Buddha temple to steal, To seek the true scriptures, Zhang Chen said with a smile. He was addicted to talking nonsense, and he almost said he came to steal the scriptures. The East? Huixing blinked blankly. He had never heard of this place. He secretly guessed that it must be a place name in the Buddha realm. After all, he knew the middle realm and even the lower realm very well, but the upper realm was in his blind spot. And the meaning of seeking the true scriptures should be to discuss the scriptures and ask questions. In Buddhism, many monks who are bored like to use this method to enhance their understanding of Buddhism. After suddenly realizing, Huixing's expression immediately became respectful, and he greeted him and said, "The 3 buried holy monks have come from afar, which is a blessing for my Buddha temple." The title changed from High Monk to Holy Monk. This is because the Buddha realm is the holy land in the hearts of the Buddhists, and the monks who come from the Holy Land will naturally be called holy monks. I will inform this temple and let the people in this temple sprinkle, chant, and pray for blessings, and welcome the holy monk with the highest etiquette. And I will personally welcome the holy monk to this temple to discuss the scriptures. Huixing bowed deeply. Go to the Buddha temple? Zhang Chen refused. How could this be possible? He could fool Huixing in front of him, but he couldn't fool the bald donkeys in the Buddha temple. The Buddha temple has a Buddha and an abbot, who are as important as the ancestors and the head of the section. In addition, there are 4 great monks, 4 great ascetic monks, and 6 Buddhist disciples. These people can see at a glance that he is practicing the treasured sutras of the Buddha temple. At that time, his image as a holy monk will collapse directly. After all, how can a lay disciple of the upper domain Buddhism learn the Buddhist teachings of the central domain? Not to mention the things that are the bottom of the box of the Buddha temple? There is no doubt that what will welcome Zhang Chen at that time must be the on-site salvation. This is related to the face and secrets of a section. Even if he is the only son of the Zhang family, the Buddha temple will want to fight to the death. Therefore, it is impossible for him to go to the Buddha temple. No need to be so troublesome, I can go to the Buddha temple by myself. Zhang Chen refused. How can that be? Huixing refused solemnly, with a firm attitude. If the people in this temple know that I neglected the holy monk from the upper domain, they will punish me severely. No matter what, I will invite the holy monk to this temple. No matter what, Zhang Chen narrowed his eyes. That's right, Huixing replied in seconds. Bald donkey. Don't be shameless. Zhang Chen was too lazy to pretend, and threatened directly, if you stop me again, I will send you to see the Buddha today. The sudden change made Huixing look confused. The man in front of him looked like a high monk a second ago, but now he looked like a villain who came to mess up the place. The point is, he didn't obstruct. Didn't he come to ask for scriptures and ask for the way? He was ready to send it over in person, so this is called obstruction? It's simply unreasonable. Unreasonable. Saint monk, please be careful with your words. Huixing tried to suppress his dissatisfaction and said, if you want to discuss the scriptures and the Tao, I will gladly send you there, otherwise. Otherwise, Zhang Chen raised his eyebrows. Otherwise, Saint monk, please go back. Buddha temple only welcomes fellow monks, but not evil monks. Huixing showed his cards. After saying that, he complained in his heart, if he is really a saint monk who has shaved his head and become a monk, I dare not do this. But Zhang Hu is just a lay disciple. Although he is well versed in Buddhism, his status in the Buddhist realm is probably very low. Buddha temple is not afraid of him. In response, Zhang Chen sneered twice, and then winked at Xiaobai. Xiaobai suddenly realized, and immediately changed his voice into an ancient wild beast that spewed black thunder. He wanted to swallow Huixing in one bite, but Xiaobai hesitated again and said, Big brother, I don't want to eat him. He looks so greasy. Originally, Huixing was frightened to the point of shaking all over his body after feeling Xiaobai's strong and violent aura. But after hearing what Xiaobai said, he only wanted to say one thing. Are you polite? As the saying goes, even Buddhas get angry. Huixing was immediately furious, and he activated the Dharma in his body, transforming into a golden body several feet tall, ready to fight Xiaobai for 300 rounds. Then, before he could act, Xiaobai pressed him to the ground like slapping a fly. Unable to move, Huixing blinked blankly as if he was pressed by a mountain. He didn't expect that he was so weak. He was killed instantly by a white tiger. Soon he realized. It wasn't that he was weak, after all, he was also a ground element cultivator, but he was blinded by the stupidity of this big white tiger. He thought that the other party was stupid, so he could fight? How could he not understand in his heart? A big demon like Xiaobai with ancient bloodline is as powerful as the Tianyuan realm. White tiger, I wasn't ready just now, let me go first, and we'll start over. Huixing said. Do you think I'm stupid? Xiaobai rolled his eyes. This made Huixing's mouth twitch. Seeing his aggrieved and helpless expression, Zhang Chen laughed haha. He came all the way, not only to destroy Lin Feng's opportunity, but also to enjoy this long-lost villain comfort. Then brush the system rewards again. After waiting for a moment and seeing no response from the system, he decided to be a little harsh and ordered directly to Xiaobai, Xiaobai, whip him. Smoke. How to smoke? Xiaobai blinked blankly. You can smoke however you want. Okay. Xiaobai was in a good mood and raised his huge tiger paw again, swatting Huixing like a fly. Every blow it strikes is as heavy as a mountain. Boom. With a slap, the gold that Huixing condensed with Buddhist teachings was scattered. Boom. With 2 slaps, Huixing was hit deep into the ground and vomited blood. The 3 slaps had just been raised and had not yet fallen. What on earth do you want to do? Huixing was about to cry. Didn't I say that? Zhang Chen was stunned. No, Huixing said while vomiting blood, I said I would take you to this temple in person, but you said I would stop you. Then you let this white tiger do it directly. I still don't know what you want to do. He looked aggrieved and helpless, and then said, even if you want to kill me, you still have to let me die, right? If you keep beating me, will the problem be solved? No. Can't we talk properly without you? Well. Zhang Chen was a little embarrassed. Thinking about it carefully, he seems to have never said his purpose. Xiaobai, keep beating him, Zhang Chen said again. Okay, Xiaobai didn't hesitate, and slapped him again with a huge slap. Boom. This slap was harder than the previous slaps, almost breaking Huixing's bones. Why is this slap? Huixing couldn't believe it. Because you make me feel a little embarrassed, Zhang Chen replied instantly. Puff. Hearing this, Huixing spit out a mouthful of dirty blood and almost fainted. At the same time, the system prompt text finally appeared. The behavior conforms to the villain setting, reward, top-notch Buddhist secrets, 6-character seal. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 139. Finally, Zhang Chen successfully moved Huixing to tears by beating him, and then he obediently presented several Buddha amulets and sent Zhang Chen and others into the Buddha temple. It is worth mentioning. Even in such a touched situation, Huixing was still confirming whether Zhang Chen wanted to discuss the scriptures and the Tao. If so, even if he was touched to death, he must send Zhang Chen to the main temple of the Buddha temple, otherwise he would be severely punished. If not, he would not bother to care. To this, Zhang Chen's answer was naturally no. This made Huixing breathe a sigh of relief and feel extremely helpless. If he didn't talk about the scriptures and the Tao, why didn't he say it earlier? If he had said it earlier, would he have been almost beaten to death by the big white tiger? This person is definitely a demon monk from the upper domain. Too unreasonable, Huixing said firmly as he watched Zhang Chen and others leave. After that, he called the little monk again, intending to report the matter. In any case, the monks from the upper domain have arrived, and this matter must be reported to the Buddha temple. Even if the temple does not want to punish him, fearing that it will offend the Buddha domain, he has fulfilled the duties of the elder of the Jiying Hall. Zhanghu. I've remembered this name, Huixing murmured again. He did not intend to take revenge. The main reason is that if the Buddha temple does not take action personally, he will not be able to take revenge. Moreover, he is a monk and cannot violate the anger precept. So Huixing decided. If he encounters an evil person with the word tiger in his name again in the future, he must save him on the spot. He can't afford to offend this Zhanghu, but he can afford to offend the next tiger, right? I'm not breaking the precepts, but I hate tigers. Whether it's a monster tiger or an evil person with the word tiger in his name, they are not worthy of being influenced and need to be saved. Huixing found another excuse for himself. Humph. He turned around and prepared to go back to heal his wounds. But just as he turned around, he saw a young man wearing Deng Gyuta's alchemy clothes, with a firm face and an upright appearance, walking in from outside the hall. The young man was stunned when he saw the scars on Huixing's body, and then asked blankly, "Why is the monk like this?" This question made Huixing's expression suddenly darken. If he hadn't seen that the person in front of him was most likely from Deng Gyuta, and was a 6th-grade alchemist, he should be a Deng Gyuta disciple, he would have gone crazy directly. After taking a deep breath, Huixing asked, "What is the purpose of your visit, donor?" The Buddha temple is temporarily closed, and only people of the same path are not allowed to enter. In addition, all tiger monsters and people with tiger in their names are also not allowed to enter, he added. So that's why the reception hall is so empty today. The young man suddenly realized and bowed his hands and said, "My name is Xuanhuan, and I am the first true disciple of Deng Gyuta. I came here on the order of my master to find the 4th true disciple of Zhifeng of Juyan sect, Mu Kuei." Mu Kuei, Huixing frowned. Isn't this the foreign monk who drove 3 preaching elders crazy but could not be expelled due to the rules of the Buddha temple? Mu Kuei is from the Juyan sect, so how could he be related to the people of Deng Gyuta? As if seeing his doubts, Xuanhuan said, "You don't know. Elder Yuan Danfan of Juyan sect was my master's sworn brother, but he was killed by Zhang Chen and his bones were crushed to ashes. Whenever my master thinks of this, he beats his chest and stamps his feet, heartbroken." Mercy Huixing comforted, "Although I have never seen Zhang Chen, I also know that he is evil everywhere. Unfortunately, this person came to the Zhang family in the upper domain, which is not comparable to ordinary evil obstacles." Yes, Xuanhuan sighed, "It is not easy to get rid of this evil obstacle. My master heard that Zhang Chen wanted to come to the Buddha temple, so he asked me to rush here overnight, just to use Mu Kuei's hand to get rid of Zhang Chen." Oh, Huixing was puzzled and asked, "Will Mu Kuei kill his own senior brother?" "Maybe, maybe not. But we have to try it. After all, we are righteous people, and we can't sit and watch Zhang Chen do evil," Xuanhuan said righteously. Huixing nodded and said no more. "Excuse me, master, is Zhang Chen here?" Xuanhuan asked again. "No." Huixing shook his head and explained, "To be honest, the Buddha temple was closed this time because they wanted to keep Zhang Chen out. They refused to allow all non-Buddhist monks to enter, for the sake of safety. After all, we have never seen Zhang Chen." Xuanhuan agreed with this statement very much. It is better to kill someone by mistake than to let him go. This is indeed the safest way. "I wonder if the master can make an exception and let me in," he asked again. This." Huixing hesitated a little. "He is one of the elders of the Jiying Hall. If the other party is really a disciple of Deng Pagoda, it is okay to make an exception. but the fear is that the person in front of him is Zhang Chen in disguise. He has never seen Zhang Chen, nor has he seen the first true disciple of Dangu Pagoda, so he naturally cannot tell the real from the fake. Seeing his hesitation, Xiaoshan immediately guessed something and quickly took out the Dangu Pagoda true disciple token for him to check. Seeing that he was still frowning, Xiaoshan turned his right hand again, and a cluster of green flames emerged from his palm. "Is this, the 6th grade innate Dan fire?" Hui Xing was shocked. "Yes, this is Xian Bai Yan, can it prove my identity?" Xiaoshan smiled proudly. "Yes, yes." Hui Xing nodded continuously. As everyone knows, this Xian Bai Yan was obtained by Dan Gu Ta in his early years, so it can naturally prove Xiaoshan's identity. Appearance and words can deceive people, but Dan fire cannot be impersonated. The identity of an alchemist is very special, not to mention Xiaoshan, who is a true disciple of Dan Gu Ta. After confirming his identity, Huixing also smiled and said, "You are so young, but you have received such a spiritual fire from Dangu Pagoda. You have a bright future." "Thank you, Master," Xiaoshan said modestly. "Is this your first time to visit Buddha Temple?" Huixing asked again. "Yes," Xiaoshan nodded. Taking out a Buddha amulet from the spiritual ring, Huixing reminded him, "If you have been to Buddha Temple before, I can still save you the pain of chanting sutras and reciting Buddha's name. But since this is your first time here, the rules of this Buddha temple." "Don't worry, Master, everything will be done according to the rules," Xiaoshan interrupted tactfully. "Okay, then I will arrange for you to live in the same temple with Mu Kuei, so that you can communicate with him." "Thank you, monk. But Mu Kuei has driven 3 preaching monks crazy, so you should be careful." "Don't worry, I will only talk to him about Zhang Chen this time, not about anything else. I heard that Mu Kuei was ridiculed by Zhang Chen in public, so I think he must be resentful." "Okay, if you can take Mu Kuei away, I will also get some merit." "Thank you, monk." After saying that, Xiaoshan took the Buddha card. I wanted to leave directly, but after thinking about it, he took out a few high-grade pills from his arms and handed them to Hui Xing, saying, "It's just a small gift, just as incense money, monk, please don't refuse." "Thoughtful, thoughtful." Quickly putting away the pills, Hui Xing smiled even more, saying, "I have a connection with you, so I remind you of something." "What is it?" Xiaoshan straightened his expression. "If you meet a Buddhist lay disciple named Zhang Hu, remember to stay away from him. This person comes from the upper domain, and his Buddhist name is Santang. Also, there is a big white tiger next to him. Although it is stupid, you must not provoke it." "Zhang Hu? Big white tiger?" When Xiaoshan heard this, he felt that he had heard it somewhere before. He wanted to ask in detail, but when he saw Huixing's injuries, he understood something in an instant. "Thank you for the reminder, monk." After that, he took out 2 healing pills to give to him. 9 generations of villains, the heroines have all turned evil. Author, Fu Zituo. Chapter 140. In the Buddha Temple. In addition to the temples that can be seen everywhere, there are also many broken mountain walls that have been cut off from them. There are dense Buddha caves carved out on the broken walls, and scriptures are carved on the cave walls. Inside them are Buddhist essentials such as futons, incense tables, and small Buddha golden bodies. At first glance, this should be the residence of monks, but in fact it is not the case. These Buddha caves are used for rest and practice by monks who can move freely in the Buddha temple after chanting scriptures and chanting Buddha, and they are not free. A small Buddha cave is only enough for one person to meditate, and 1 medium-grade spiritual crystal is required per day. A medium-sized Buddha cave is slightly spacious, enough for 5 people to rest, but the price has increased tenfold. And the large Buddha cave, whose internal area is like a small temple, has reached a sky-high price of 100 medium-grade spiritual crystals per day. At such a price, you can buy a high-grade spiritual tool, and it is charged on a daily basis. Almost no Xuanhuan monk can afford it. The Buddha temple is very humane. If a monk is really tired but short of money, he can postpone paying the accommodation fee for a few days by reciting the sutra 100 times a day. If a monk suddenly feels that he has a connection with Buddha and passes the test and can become a monk in this temple, all the incense money owed on credit can be exempted. Yes, the Buddha temple calls all this money incense money. According to them, monks collect money not for themselves, but to promote Buddhism and build more golden bodies for the Buddha. In the Buddha cave at the top of a broken wall, Zhang Chen has lived here for many days. 9 reincarnations, this is not his first time to come to the Buddha temple, but he still admires it. If the Buddha dies, this half-brainwashing and half-forced preaching method, really few monks can stand it. No wonder the Buddha temple has become more and more powerful in recent years, and there are endless monks willing to shave their heads and become monks. And in recent days, he often feels that someone is spying. There is no need to think about it, it must be the elder of the reception hall who reported the matter. The bald monks in the Buddha temple were a little restless, but they were afraid of his title of holy monk, so they deliberately came to check on him. At the beginning, there were at least several people checking every day. After a few days, seeing that Zhang Chen not only did not leave, but also contributed a lot of incense money, these bald monks seemed to be relieved and no longer paid attention. The people in the Buddha temple didn't know. The reason why Zhang Chen didn't take action was because the two brothers Lu Wen and Lu Wu, as well as Xiaobai, were outside to inquire about the news. The reason why he paid so readily, in addition to not being short of money, was also because he knew that the loss he would cause to the Buddha temple next would definitely be above the incense money he paid. In short, it's not a loss. It is worth mentioning. Because of the title of holy monk, Zhang Chen and his entourage were exempted from chanting scriptures and reciting Buddha. At this moment, in the Buddha cave, in addition to Zhang Chen, there was also a red-clothed figure. Xuanhuan kicked over the incense table and used the Buddha's golden statue as a stool. She was resting her head with her white and slender hands, watching the boiling and hot cauldron with her beautiful eyes without blinking. Zhang Chen glanced at the purple-black smoke rising from the cauldron. He was instantly convinced. Yes, it is definitely a poisonous elixir. Master, refining elixirs is exhausting. Why do you study these things when you have nothing to do? Zhang Chen said helplessly. Poisoning people, Xuanhuan didn't even turn her head. I want to protect you and don't have time to kill people everywhere. Anyway, there is a poisoning tool. I can protect you and poison people I don't like. Why not? The poisoning tool she was referring to was naturally Zhang Hu. At this moment, Zhang Chen finally understood. No wonder Xuanhuan promoted Zhang Hu to the 6th true disciple of Zhu Feng. It turned out that this was her idea. Thinking of Zhang Hu, Zhang Chen sighed again. This person is a bit miserable. Not only was he beaten by him and chopped by Lin Mubai, but also according to gossip, Zhang Hu was scared half to death by Qingning. Now, he has become Xuanhuan's poisoning tool. This is so miserable, almost as miserable as Lin Feng. Forget it, I won't beat him anymore, it's quite pitiful. Zhang Chen rarely felt pity. However, he could only guarantee himself. As for what Xuanhuan and others would do to Zhang Hu, that was not within his consideration. Master, a few days ago, many high-level people in the Buddha temple came to spy on you. Didn't they find you? Zhang Chen asked again. Humph, they are just a bunch of bald donkeys, Xuanhuan disdainfully said. I am now a real phoenix body, and my cultivation has improved a lot. As long as I am willing to hide, no one can find me except the immortal Buddha and the 4 ascetic monks who live in seclusion. The Buddha in the Buddha temple is like the ancestor, and the 4 ascetic monks are like the supreme elders. Under the 4 ascetic monks, the strength and status from high to low are the head abbot, the 4 universal monks and the 6 Buddhist disciples. I see. Zhang Chen suddenly realized, and said, Master, this time I come to the Buddha temple. If necessary, I need to find a way to enter the Buddha's 6 prisons, then you must not stop me. Xuanhuan did not reply, just kept silent. She naturally knew that the Buddha's 6 prisons was a great opportunity for Lin Feng. It can also be guessed that Zhang Chen wanted to enter the 6 prisons to destroy Lin Feng's opportunity. But this matter is easier said than done. In the 9 reincarnations, Zhang Chen did not try to snatch Lin Feng's opportunity first. But this God will not let him do as he wishes. Take the Buddha's 6 prisons for example. Even if Zhang Chen went through it in the same way as Lin Feng, he still could not break the 6 prisons. Even if he kept trying, successfully broke the 6 prisons, and obtained 6 drops of blood from the ancestors of the demon palace, he could not merge. This is suppression. Otherwise, after 9 reincarnations and Zhang Chen has memories of several lifetimes, how could he still be unable to defy heaven? From the moment a child of destiny is born, God has prepared many opportunities for him. And God will never allow these opportunities to be picked by a villain. Seeing that Xuanhuan was silent, Zhang Chen straightened his expression. Master, this matter is very important to me. Okay. Xuanhuan finally expressed her stance. Although she stated that she would not stand in the way, her thoughtful eyes clearly had other ideas. Sudden. The 2 brothers Lu Wen and Lu Wu turned back. After seeing Xuanhuan, the 2 brothers were stunned at first, and then they were not surprised. After all, Xuanhuan has been elusive since leaving Juyan sect, just like a stalker. The 2 brothers remember it clearly. On the way, when everyone was resting under the tree, Xuanhuan would jump down from the top of the tree and hand Zhang Chen a freshly peeled spiritual fruit. When everyone is stationed by the river, Xuanhuan will jump out of the water, bringing out water droplets all over the sky, while holding a fat spiritual fish in his right hand. One more day. Xuanhuan appeared out of nowhere, and in full view of everyone, she raised her hand and began to untie Zhang Chen's black clothes. The reason is that I want to help Zhang Chen bathe. All kinds of things. Over time, the 2 brothers Lu Wen and Lu Wu, and even Xiao Bai, were convinced. Xuanhuan's madness should be different from others. Not only is she crazy, she's even, a little perverted. Peak Master, senior brother, we have news about Lin Feng and Mu Kuei. Lu Wen said politely. Hearing this, both Zhang Chen and Xuanhuan narrowed their eyes slightly. Mu Kuei chanted sutras and chanted Buddha's name in a temple about 10 miles away from here. It is said that he drove 4 preaching monks crazy. And Lin Feng was captured by 6 Buddhist disciples of the Buddha temple yesterday and was thrown into the 6th prison of the Buddha. Lu Wu answered. Zhang Chen was not surprised by the news about Lin Feng. After all, when they arrived at the Buddha temple, the elder of the Hall of Enlightenment had said that the Buddha would personally capture Lin Feng. But the person who drove the preacher monk crazy was actually Mu Kuei. And just a few days ago, there were only 3 of them. Just a few days later, another one was driven crazy. This plot was not written in the original work. Again, the plot keeps coming and going, and Zhang Chen is used to it. After telling brothers Lu Wen and Lu Wu to stay away from Mu Kuei, he wanted to say something, but was suddenly stunned. Where's that stupid tiger? Zhang Chen asked. This. Lu Wen scratched his head, looking a little embarrassed. Lu Wu gritted his teeth and said, Sister Bai has been listening to sutras in a temple every day these past few days. She said that she has a destiny with the Buddha and wants to become a monk. Zhang Chen was speechless.